everyone, I'm Amy from Eating Healthy, Spending Less, and today we're going to continue in our series, Keeper of the Home. This is part 3, all about parenting. I just want to preface this video on parenting to say that I am by no means saying that I am a perfect parent, that I have it all together. Friends, I am right in the middle of my parenting journey. I have 4 kiddos, 6, 7, 10, and 10. And it is a big learning experience. So instead of coming across trying to give advice about parenting, I just want to cover 3 topics that I think are key issues that we need to discuss and some helpful tips that really help me when I'm parenting my kids. So let's get started. So this series is geared towards being a keeper of the home and what that looks like. Now, in the past weeks, we've talked about that being a keeper of the home means that we set the tone of our home, and that could not be more true when it comes to parenting. I want to keep this whole series grounded in truth. And so I want to look at the Bible and what the Bible says about mothers setting the tone of their home with their children. So in Proverbs 31, the woman who fears the Lord passage, it says that, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. And then later in that next verse, it says, her children rise up and call her blessed. Like, that is huge for me. So we know that mothers play a huge role in how our children react to discipline, how our children react to, several different circumstances as they grow up as adults. Also in Proverbs 29 verse 17, it says, discipline your son and he will give you rest. He will give delight to your heart. I love that. Also in Colossians, it says, children, obey your parents, for this is pleasing to the Lord. In Ephesians 6:4, it says, parents, do not provoke your children to anger. God obviously knew that we were going to need so much truth from the Bible to help us with parenting. And parenting is an absolute blessing from the Lord. I was talking to my husband last night about what I was going to cover today, and I said, I want to talk about the child's role in a home. What do you think of when I say that? And the first thing he said was, children are a blessing. They're an absolute blessing from the Lord. But a lot of times, we forget that. We forget the role that we play in the home and what we allow our children to do in the home. And then we get frustrated and it's hard to recover from that. So let's talk about what is a child's role in the home? What is our role in the home? How can we create a cohesive atmosphere in our home? It is our job as parents to teach our children obedience and respect. The Bible is very clear that we are responsible for training up our child in the way they should go, and when they are old, they shall not depart from it. In the last couple years, a family member of mine hosted a family to take care of for one night. They were having car trouble and they lived far away from their home. It was late at night, and so they asked him to come in and sleep at their home. This would have been fine, except for the fact that their children had not been trained in how to respect furniture. Now, I do not want to turn anybody off from this video if you allow your children to jump on your furniture. However, when you are in somebody else's home, that is a great teaching opportunity to teach your children to respect others' furniture. And these children, there were 2 of them, they were jumping on the couches. One of them fell over onto the side table and knocked off the lamp and broke it. And then the other issue was that they wet the bed and they didn't wear pull-ups at night. And so my family member had a really hard time hosting this family because those children had not been trained to respect furniture or other people's property, like their home. And so I say this with as much respect as I can on this video, but it is so important as parents to train our children to respect not just other people's property and home, but their own home. And so I don't let my children jump on the couches, because I know that if I let my kids jump on my furniture, then it would be very difficult for them to not repeat that at somebody else's home. So that is one area where I am pretty strict on. We don't jump on my furniture. We don't stand or sit on tables, because I know that when we leave our home, they're going to mimic those same tendencies at somebody else's home. And I want my children to be really respectful and polite wherever we go, so that others see that my children are being respectful. Not to say, oh, look at her and her parenting. Not at all. I want my children to be raised to where other people think highly of them and think that they are being honorable to their parents. Now, I know what it is like to have a strong-willed child. And I mean an extreme strong-willed child. And I know that it's very hard to train a strong-willed child to be obedient and respectful, because it's their way or the highway a lot of times. But the one tip that I want to challenge you with is to never stoop down to their level. And I have fallen into that trap where they start yelling and I get upset and I raise my voice. And as soon as I raise my voice to their level, I am stooping down to their level. And parents, we cannot allow ourselves to do that. We need to stay calm. And when we stay calm, that invites our child to come up to our level and to be calm. I refuse to join in on that child's tantrum. Now, as the child grows up, the tantrums tend to not be as dramatic, maybe. However, and when I say dramatic, I mean like fall to the ground or scream in a store. Trust me, I've dealt with that too, many times. But as they get older, the tantrums change. And so that's the next thing that I want to talk to you about, and that's triggers. So we are not to provoke our children to anger. You know what sets your children off. For me, with that child, if I say, go sit on your bed, I want you to think about what you've done. Or I want to remove them from the situation and have them go to another room, I know that that is a trigger. I know that their anger level is going to rise, that the screaming might occur, or if I try to, tell them to stop, they just get louder. So we want to avoid triggers. Whatever you know sets off your child, avoid it. So instead of me saying, go sit on your bed, and I want you to think about what you've done, I invite them to get closer to me. So instead of, in their mind, I'm pushing them away, I pull them closer to me. So when they're starting to tantrum or get set off because of a situation, I avoid the trigger and I pull them in. It keeps me calm. Surprisingly, it keeps me calm. The volume of what they're doing gets louder as it gets closer to me. And a lot of times I want to push them away because I need a break. But I've noticed that when I pull them in and we're eye to eye, and it's not me looking down upon my child, it's me getting down eye level with them, pulling them close to me, sometimes just hugging them, that child in particular, if I just hug that child, they relax. Now, when I first started doing this, that child did not relax. They actually reared back, and I ended up falling over because I couldn't hold my position steady because I had squatted down to that child's level. But now they pull close to me and we're able to discuss, and I start whispering into their ear, please explain to me why you're feeling this way. Now that child is old enough to communicate to me, and I know it's difficult when they are not able to communicate what that feels like, but keep practicing it. That physical touch of a child to a mother immediately brings the tone down in the home. If you are experiencing this, I highly suggest trying it. It took a while. It took a few tries for me because I was so used to separating the child and telling them to go because I felt like I needed a break. But we as parents, we set the tone of our home. We can handle it. We don't always need to go off and have a break and hide in the bathroom. Now, there are certainly opportunities where that is okay to do that. But right in the midst of a tantrum or right in the midst of a problem, we need to play the role as a parent and pull our child close to us and address the problem, comfort the child in a positive way. We don't need to focus constantly on the negative, and I know I tend to do that, focus on the negative. But as parents, we need to focus on what are we trying to do? What are we trying to train our child to do? Do we want them to see that we are going to be okay with the tantrum because we'd rather just get rid of them in the moment? Or are we going to show them grace? Show them absolute unconditional love and say, no matter how you're feeling right now, I am here for you. So a child's role in the home is actually submission under us. We are the parent. We are teaching the child the way they should go. We are teaching them respect. We are teaching them obedience. Whatever consequence I put in place for my child, it sticks. Most consequences, I feel like, affect more of myself than even the child, especially if I say no TV the rest of the day, then that really affects me. I mean, because then the TV can be a very great temporary babysitter if your child loves TV and you can stick them in front of something to watch while you're trying to get something done. And I think that using that sparingly is totally okay. I'm not against that at all. But consequences have to stick. We have to show our child consistency. And if we constantly give them a consequence, but then we lift it because we want to make it easier on us or we feel bad for them, that teaches the child that really what we say isn't true. That really what we say doesn't stick, and they can basically get away with what they got in trouble for doing. So consistency is really important. Have a system in place. Have maybe a warning, and then we have a chart in our home that it's like a clip down system or a clip up system. And I generally take it down midsummer, but we start our summers with doing this system because it teaches them my expectation because we're home all day together. I mean, when we're on school schedule, that's different because they're not home all day. I don't really deal with a lot of behavioral issues because my kids have all been separated all day. So when they get home from school, they actually really want to be with each other. When we're home all day on summer schedule, that's totally different. And sometimes we, get tired of hanging out with the same people over and over again. But on our chart, it basically says things like, warning. The next one is stern talk with mom or whatever, or dad. The next one might be, miss out on an activity, or don't get to watch TV, or do an extra chore, whatever you want it to say. We have kind of a list that we kind of follow. And, the farther you get down the list, the harsher the punishment. Like the last one is you go to bed early. And they never want to do that because then they're missing out on something that we're doing. But you can do things like that if you see a need for it. A lot of times for us, it's really temporary. It's just to put our kids back on track so that they understand the rules of the house. Now we don't really have a problem right now with behaviors. We do have some sibling rivalry issues that are happening right now, and we're going to talk about that next. So let's dive into that. I asked on Instagram, what are some issues in parenting that you're dealing with right now that you really want to address, or you'd like some little tips on that have helped in our home? And the biggest one was definitely sibling rivalry and discipline. Okay, so obviously not an expert. I have 2 children in particular that are constantly, figuratively knocking heads every day, every single day. And so here's what I do. And again, it starts with the consistency, because if we don't stay consistent, our children won't either. We have a lot of family discussions. When I see an issue flaring up, whether we're not sharing or I'm seeing a bossy tendency to occur, then we have sit-down family meetings. I love family meetings. I think everyone in my household loves family meetings, because what I am doing is I want to teach my kids that we are a unit, we are a team. God placed each and every one of us members into this household for a reason. And He truly did. 3 of my children are adopted from the foster care system. And so He truly did pick each person that we have in our family for a purpose. And I truly believe that. We are to encourage one another. And that is my goal in this house. I am constantly, I say it probably 50 times a day, no exaggeration. Is that encouraging? Or I say things like during our family meetings, you are all going to be adults one day. Do you want to be close with one another? And I'll wait for an answer. Because if we are not teaching our kids to love and respect one another, then how can we expect them to do that when they're adults? I have adult family members that are siblings and they don't get along. And we don't want that for our kids. We want them to grow up as a family unit where we're close to one another and they rely on one another as adults. I want my daughters to be best friends. And so it starts at home when they're children. I tell my kids all the time, we can do more together than we can do alone. I love serving others with my family. And so I look for ways where we can serve as a family, whether that's getting involved with our church, getting involved at my husband's school because he's a high school teacher, serving the high school students. We love participating in different outreach projects with the school. Also, getting our kids involved in our lives. So my husband's really into sports, and so getting our kids involved in that. And it's looking for ways where we can encourage others. If we are constantly butting heads, then we are not going to be as effective. And so sitting my kids down, when I see a problem, a lot of times I will sit the 2 kids down, or I will sit all 4 kids down. And we will just have a big family talk. What is the problem? What is the root of the problem? Is there a specific child that is just not sharing? Is there a specific child that's just being too bossy? Is this a problem, with all the kids? I want to know. And because a lot of times when you have 4, they think they can just go figure it out themselves and be mommy, and that's not true. So I like to sit them down and hash it all out so that we can get all our feelings on the table. Also, with our summer schedule, we do the buddy system. I love doing the buddy system, and this is in my summer schedule video. I will post it for you in the description box. I love it because I can pair those two kids together. They're not playing together, but they are working together as a team, maybe putting a puzzle together, playing a game like a card game together. This shows them that they can get along. And so if you have two kids or more kids that are not getting along, focus on doing something else with those two kids to bring them together, to show them that they are stronger together, that they're not weaker when they're together. And that has really helped with sibling rivalry. Yes, I still deal with it, sometimes on a daily basis. But I focus on distracting the children with having a schedule to pull them away from feeling that consistent, volatile, negative tone in the home when I have those two children together. Putting them on a schedule, we are doing something other than just playing together. We're doing activities, and it just breaks that hold that those two children have towards one another. They see that they can actually work together and something positive comes out of it. And so that is what we focus on with sibling rivalry. The last thing I want to talk to you about is mealtime. This was the most popular request I got on my Instagram page. How do you get your kids to eat so many vegetables? That was basically the question. So here's the deal. On Facebook, I'm a part of a group with women that I don't even know. One of those women posted, she first said, "Please be kind, because I'm really afraid to post this. My child was born very small, very underweight, and my pediatrician basically said, just get the child to eat. I don't care if that child eats ice cream all day, every day. That child just needs to gain weight." Well, now this child is 4, and she was upset because she said, all I can get him to eat is macaroni and cheese and chicken nuggets. And I just feel like I'm losing as a parent. How can I get my child to eat healthier when if I offer something else and I try to make it exciting, they fall to the ground, throw a tantrum, and mealtime is the most stressful, volatile time of our day. I hate mealtime. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I can't stand it, especially if they want a snack, because there's just always friction. And I just felt so much grief for this mom, because that is so miserable, especially when you are doing your very best that you know how to provide a healthy environment for your kids, and when you just feel like you just wish they'd eat an apple or whatever it is. So here's what has helped for my house. My husband and I were foster parents for 3 years. We had 17 different children in our home. We adopted 3 of them. So that's 14 kids in and out of our home in 3 years. We had all kinds of eating habits. I had one child whose mom told me at our first visit, "Don't expect my child to eat anything. He'll just drink Pediasure. That's it." And I thought, okay, I'm up for the challenge. I didn't tell her that, but I just thought, okay, I'm up for this. Let's do this. We had him for almost a month. And so I fed my kids just like I normally do. I put nothing in front of him. And I said, does anything on, and I named my kids, I said, does anything on their plates look good to you? And he saw them starting to eat. And I've shown you guys in my other past videos how I put together nibble plates. It's a plate just filled with a smattering of different types of foods. I always have beans, a grain, and then fruits and vegetables on the plate. I said, does any of that look good to you? And so he saw them eating their food and he starts pointing. He wanted some blueberries. And then he pointed to grapes. And so I thought, okay. So I put together a little plate for him and I said, does anything else look good? And so he picked out like some dried cereal or something. And that's what he ate. And then I gave him some Pediasure because the mom wanted me to, so I was abiding by that. But anyways, that is how I got him to start eating the same foods that we were eating. And it was not forceful at all. I let him be a part of it, but that was so helpful. And that was a great start for me because I got to thinking, okay, so when a new child came to our home, the first thing I did is I took them to the grocery store and I let them pick out some treats that they wanted, but they also had to pick out something healthy to go with it. And so we would pick out, they would most of the time want Pop-Tarts, which is fine. So they would get Pop-Tarts and then I would take them over to the produce section or the dried fruit section and I would let them and I'd share with them all about healthy benefits. Oh, look at these carrots. They have beta carotene in them. They are so good for your eyeballs. And so I would start talking to them about some of the health factors when it comes to eating certain foods. I do the same thing with my kids today. We talk all about health benefits of eating certain foods. I drill into them the importance of eating fiber and how certain foods have more fiber than other foods, how it really helps with tummy trouble and digestion. So I love talking to my kids all about that. And I get them involved in the kitchen. I sit down my girls and my son and we go through what we're going to eat during the week. And then sometimes during that week, if one kid says, oh, I wish we could have, this, then I'll say, well, we should put that on the meal plan for next week. Or sometimes we can adjust the meal plan and have that particular food. I get them really involved. They help me write the grocery list. They help me go grocery shopping. They help me cook in the kitchen. I try to make the kitchen, we all know the kitchen is the heart of the home, but it only is if we involve the people in our home. And so I really want to draw my children in, teach them what I'm doing, and get them involved in the kitchen. Now, it's not like that every single day, but that's my focus. My focus is to teach them. I want them to grow up and to love being in the kitchen, to have good knife skills on how to cut certain foods. And I want them to obviously help me clean the kitchen. And so they do. They help with unloading and reloading the dishwasher, and they help clean up dinner dishes with me every day, every day. So I get my kids really involved. I love having family style meals with my kids. This is something that we have really put an emphasis on during quarantine. Every dinner we serve it family style. So I put everything that we've made on the table and we dish it up as a family and we eat family style. Well, during dinner, we like to play little games. And so one night my daughter says, I have a great idea. Let's all name a food that we don't like. And I was like, okay, this would be quite interesting. So I flipped it. I said, how about we say, I don't care to eat this, but I'm trying to like it, which is why I choose to eat it again. So it was a lot of fun to hear my kids' answers. And they were like, Mommy, you go. And so we did our top 3 vegetables that we don't care to eat, but we eat them. We choose to eat them because they're healthy and we're trying to like them. And so I shocked them and I said, Mommy has a really hard time eating tomatoes, but you know what? I have 7 tomato plants in my backyard. I am really trying to love them. So I told my kids, I don't care for tomatoes, but I choose to eat them because I know they're good for me and I'm trying to like them. and they loved playing that game. My kids love it when we do like Bible trivia, or we play little games about where we want to go on vacation or whatnot during mealtime. They think mealtime is so much fun. I have one child that takes forever to eat. I mean, she could sit there for 2 hours easily. So one summer before school started, this was when school was in full, normalcy, I practiced with my kids eating their meals in 20 minutes because I knew that's all they had time for during lunch at school. And so we would practice, I wouldn't serve like this big, huge lunch. We'd practice eating, our quick lunch as fast as we could within that 20-minute period. I could allow that child to just irritate me because she's taking forever to eat. But what I've chosen to do is throughout mealtime, I'm encouraging her to, take more bites more often, but I'm also decreasing how much I put on her plate because she'll just go, it's just too much. Well, I don't want my kids to feel like they have to lick their plate clean for me to be happy with them, but I do want them to get enough of what we're eating so that they're not starving minutes later wanting a snack. And so I talk to my kids a lot about let's eat those vegetables first before you eat maybe the bread or the protein or something that they really want to eat, because I don't want them to say, oh, well, I'm full now, so I don't want to eat my vegetables. Well, I'm sorry, but that's unacceptable in this house. And so we always say veggies first. We encourage eating our vegetables first with the rest of the meal. I don't want them to just focus on just eating the veggies first. I want them to enjoy it with everything else, but they need to also be eating it first. And so mealtime, I know it can just be really difficult, but I try to make it really exciting. I try to get the kids involved, and so far it's worked for us. Now, the other day I was making the kids smoothies, and all the store had was green bananas, and our bananas were still pretty green. And so when I made the smoothie, I knew, I was a little worried about it, and sure enough, the smoothie wasn't as good as it normally is because those bananas were not really ripe. And so I set the smoothie down. I said, kids, I understand that this smoothie is not going to taste as good as other smoothies that we make, and it's strictly because the bananas were not as ripe as they should be. But we're going to drink this smoothie, and we're going to make it an amazing contest, and I am going to give the kid that finishes first 5 M&Ms. There's not going to be a second and third place and fourth place winner here. There's going to be one winner. And do you know, I had no trouble. They all drank that smoothie like it was no big deal. And I was pretty excited because it's a lot of money to make smoothies. And they weren't complaining at all about it, and they were so excited. And then we had peanut butter and jellies to go with the smoothie. But a lot of times I want to focus on them eating that healthy fruit and vegetable first before they eat the pleasurable food. So a lot of times I'll give the smoothies and say, as soon as you're done with your smoothie, I'll then give you your sandwich. And so we'll do things like that. Just find what works best in your home, but try to make mealtime pleasant. Focus on the foods that your kids do like, but also encourage them to try new foods. I love it when my kids are at the grocery store with me and they find a new fruit that we've never bought before, or we haven't bought in a really long time, and they get the other kids excited about eating it. And so that is just like, it's a total joy thing for me. I love my kids being a part of my love, which is cooking in the kitchen. So I asked my kids a series of questions, and they loved answering them. My son, one of his answers, I think you'll get a giggle out of it because it's about chores. I hope that you enjoy this little segment. After the little question time with my kids, I'm going to take you into my kitchen, and I'm going to show you a really easy year-round salsa recipe. You are going to love it. I learned this recipe while living in Texas, where I took my Heart of the Home class that I explained in my intro video for this series. And It's my favorite. I have shared this recipe with family and friends. It's on my website, but I've never done a YouTube video. So let me take you into the kitchen and show you how delicious this salsa recipe is after you see how cute my kids are and how they answered these questions. Ask your kids a series of questions too, so that they have an opportunity to be a part of the home discussion and a part of choosing the foods that you buy from the grocery store. We have lots of fun in our family, but what can we do to make our family more fun?
One thing I think we could do to make our family more fun would be to play some more family games together. We can spend time with our family and have movie nights together. We can do puzzle night more often. Have more trips to the beach. Is that one title?
We work together as a family to keep our house clean. So what is one thing that you do around the house to help that you enjoy doing?
One thing I enjoy doing is mopping the floors. I enjoy vacuuming our house for my parents. I enjoy wiping down all the doorknobs. I enjoy doing poop duty and watering the plants if Mommy wants me to.
How is it so easy to get you kiddos to eat your vegetables?
I think that 2 ways to help us to eat more vegetables is to let us help meal plan and to let us help in the kitchen. It's easy to eat our vegetables because you put them in our smoothies. My mom cooks them and puts yummy stuff on it. She puts it in pasta and in smoothies.
And that gets you to eat more veggies? What's your favorite vegetable?
Broccoli.
I just want to show you my flowers from my garden. I grew sunflowers and marigolds from seed this year, and I just think it's so pretty. It kind of matches my shirt. So this salsa recipe requires 2 cans of fire roasted tomatoes. Yes, they are canned, but I promise you, you can make this recipe year-round, and there's a lot of fresh ingredients so that it doesn't taste like canned tomatoes. So you're just gonna have to trust me on this. It's so good though. So we're just going to dump 2 cans of tomatoes. We're going to add 1 clove of garlic. You can't see me do this. Okay. 1 teaspoon of honey. Half a teaspoon of salt. I'm eyeballing it. A 1/4 of a teaspoon of cumin. Okay, let me talk to you about cilantro. So a lot of people, when they are cooking with cilantro, they only use the leaves, which is so beautiful and perfect for a garnish. For this salsa, you could definitely use the leaves, but surprisingly, you can use the stems. The stems have the same great flavor as the cilantro leaves. So for this salsa recipe, I tend to leave this green part for when I'm cooking and I want to garnish tacos or something with this, and I use the stems for my salsa. So I'm just gonna pull out half of this where I use half the leaves and half the stems. I'm not cutting anything off or getting rid of these. These are full of flavor. Last but not least, what really brightens and freshens up this salsa is the juice from 1 lime. You could also add some of the zest if you want. Okay, the salsa's done and it is just beautiful. There you go. And Obviously, this is very mild for my kids. My husband likes for me to take a little out from the kids and then to add some jalapeno into ours to just spice it up a little bit. You can do that as well, or you can add just some hot sauce. But I love to put this in a jar, give some to a neighbor or a friend, send some home with my mom. It is just the perfect salsa. It is so delicious to snack on with some chips. You're going to want to make this the next time you host a get-together. Or if you want to take a meal to a family, include a jar of this with a bag of chips. I know the mom will love you for it. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Have a great day, and I will see you next time in our Keeper of the Home series.